Hey, welcome back to the True North podcast. My name is James McKenzie. This week, we have our friend Tracy Markham from Alpha Warrior. That is a ministry that is ministering to men and women, all about discipling them closer to a relationship with God. And so this is an incredible conversation. Tracy has a really cool story, so lean into that. Before we go to that, I want to tell you guys about all the retreats we've got coming up this fall. We've got the summit coming up October 16th through the 19th at Spring Valley Ranch, one of the most beautiful locations that we go to. The summit is the next level after base camp. You can go to it without having gone to the ascent. And really, if you're in the stage of life from your 20s to 40s, this message is for you. It's all about building your character. It's an incredible weekend, one of my favorite camps that we do. And so be sure to check that out and sign up soon because it could sell out. Also, we have a September base camp in Oklahoma, a September base camp in Kansas, and then a November base camp in Oklahoma and a November base camp in Texas. And so check all those out at truenorth.live. And now we'll kick it over to this week's podcast. Tracy Markham, welcome to the True North podcast.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm deeply honored. It's great to partner with True North.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were with a program called Alpha Warriors, which is a great group of men that we've seen some, what is it called? Symmetry or between True North men and Alpha Warrior. There's some overlap there.
Right.
You actually came to your first base camp just a few months ago, right?
Right. Last summer.
Yeah. How was that?
It was transformational. It really was. I came, I really wanted to try to empty my mind and not have any expectation. My mind usually works like, how do they do that? How do they put that together?
Yeah.
You know, and having a ministry like, oh yeah, that's better than we do it. Let's do it that way. And I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And really your team helped with that. That first night, I think we prayed till 2:00 in the morning together. And it was just, I still have my notebook and I bet I look at that probably every month.
Wow.
On just the questions and the guidance and just so humbled by that.
Man, whenever I go to like new restaurants or coffee shops or things like that, I'm always just looking around like, I wonder how they did. Like, I feel that totally. And events, especially, of course, whenever I go to True North events, it's really hard for me to disconnect with how everything looks. Like, I'm like so focused on all that stuff. So I get that. Well done. Like taking that to God and releasing that, because that can be such a huge distraction.
And again, it took a little while. I got there and, everything from the communication ahead of time. And it's just really one thing I admire about True North is just you really do strive for excellence for God. And it's apparent in all you do. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on your podcast. Yeah. It's not easy to do, and we see it all the time in ministry where it's good enough. I'm like, ooh, is that really how we want to be with God?
Yeah. And
it's his ministry. It's not mine.
It's so easy for men to be distracted too. And whenever things aren't excellent, that provides while it might not distract half the crowd, the other half of the crowd will notice it and be taken out by it. And by taken out, it doesn't mean like that they're having a horrible negative experience, but they're just not hearing what we're intending for them to hear because they're thinking about this other thing. And, we just want to create that space where men can encounter and hear from God. And if there's distractions, that's tough to do. So
whether we want to admit it or not, we do have a little bit of competition with the world, right?
Yeah.
And with the entertainment and everyone wants to be entertained. And it's hard to compete with that, but yet still keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah. Well, I know it was an honor for us to have you at base camp. I love whenever other ministry leaders step into that environment and we get a chance to serve them. And so thank you for coming to that. That's really cool. And it was so good to meet with you for coffee afterwards and hear that you enjoyed it as well, and that it was an impactful experience for you. I'd love to introduce to our audience what Alpha Warrior is all about. Could you tell us about that?
I can. And it's interesting, as God always does. He's changed it and molded it.
Yeah.
really completely different from what I originally envisioned. Alpha Warrior started, January of 2000. Great time to start, right? Right in the first of COVID.
Yeah.
And it came about through really a personal tragedy and failure that I realized that I had no network and basis of good Christian men around me to help me in a time of crisis, and help guide me and give me wisdom. And we started in an IHOP, and then of course they closed all the restaurants. So we ended up on a park bench twice a week with a group of men, and then grew, from 4 or 5 to 8 or 9. And the ladies started seeing such a difference of how the men were calling each other and staying close and being a brotherhood. They said, "Hey, can we come?" And we're like, "No." but it ended up where now we have a combined meeting the first and third Saturdays of men, women, kids, in a private home here in Edmond, Oklahoma. And then we still have men's events. What we really focus on is that what people from ministry will know is discipleship, but we really call it brotherhood because it's deeper than that, right? Discipleship from an old religion point of view is kind of condemning. A brotherhood is, I think I can say it best this way. I may not know what to do, but I'm going to walk with you through this. I may not have all the answers. I'm sure I don't. But you're not going to do it alone.
That's good. So could take that back to the park benches, right? Like you guys are meeting, and this desire just came out of wanting brotherhood. What did it look like? Like, did you guys just sit and talk about how you're doing, or how did those things look?
We always came with a scripture, or one of the guys would say, "Hey, God's been kind of working with me on this, or talking to me about this. What do you guys think? Does this mean what I think it means?" And we would just start diving into that. And then it would always come out of a life experience, right? It would always say, how do we apply this? One of the things we try at Alpha Warrior before we leave, or before we wind anything up, is, okay, we talked a lot about many things, whether that's identity or purpose or whatever. Going home tonight, tomorrow, how do we apply this? How does this change the way you live? How does this enrich your relationship with God? Right now, that's what we're talking about, indwelling with the Lord, which has been the last month has been supernatural. And at some point, we'd love to get into that. And it's, I have completely changed the way I think about God. And just the last month.
Wow.
And the beginning Alpha Warrior was, I was raised independent Baptist. So I was raised in a very religious, hellfire and brimstone church. Not a lot of relationship there. And it's still great church and great people, average age, probably 75, right? Youth group of 3. But I carried that with me for a long time of an identity that I just never can be enough.
So did you have any type of pastoral training, ministry training? This was just purely out of desire.
Completely out of a guttural need for brotherhood and knowing that I can't do this on my own. That I had Christ, right? But even Christ had 12 brothers he walked through ministry with. And I knew that we were, if you go on our website, the very first thing you'll see is you're never alone. And so many men, the statistics are, as many as 90% of men don't have one other man that at 2:00 in the morning they can call and go, "Hey, I messed up," or "I'm in a bar ditch," or "I've rolled my car." They don't have somebody to call, and that's terrifying. It's sad, and it's an indictment on Christian men, and isolation. I truly believe isolation is the number one tool of the enemy. You look at war,
and it's the true pandemic that's come through, really, right, in the past 5 years.
Exactly.
So you were isolated before 2020. What did that lead to?
Catastrophe. So I had real estate, really a good real estate company. We made a lot of really good money, and we were very stewardess with it. But then, as you know, in the late 90s, that just fell off the table. It was like somebody turned the light switch off and everything stopped. And thank goodness we were good stewards and we had some savings. And I had taught economics. I have an MBA and I taught economics, and I knew that average recession is about 9 months to 12 months. So we'll hang on. Well, 12 months later, eating and living out of savings, it had gotten no better.
Oh, wow.
So we knew we were going to have to close the business, and I'm praying, and I'm just thinking, God, what's next? And this overwhelming desire to be a ministry. And I'm like, that's the last thing I want to do. Because I have uncles and people in ministry, and then people that said, don't do it. Don't do it. It's tough. It's hard. It's lonely. And so I wanted to use my business knowledge to help the church. And I thought, what about an executive pastor? I didn't know anybody around, so I reached out to my pastor at the time, and he goes, well, as a matter of fact, one of the fastest growing churches in the nation is in need of an executive pastor. The only problem is it's in St. Louis, Missouri. Well, our kids, went to the Christian school here. They were entranced. They only knew this area, and I thought, that's never going to happen. So long story short is we put out 7 fleeces. Thought we had God trapped in a box. There's no way we're going to St. Louis.
Yeah.
Well, you know how that worked out, right? We sold our house for full price in the worst real estate market. The people literally pulled up at our front door and said, we want your house. How much is it? I mean, crazy things that had I not experienced, I would have never believed it.
Right.
Even to the point where our kids go, yeah, we want to move to St. Louis. And we're like, all of your friends are here. You play football here. You're in dance here. I mean, it was only God, right? So we went, and it was not a good experience. The church was not a church of integrity. I'll just leave it at that. And I really got exposed to the ugly side of church, and found some things that were going on that weren't right. Brought them up, excuse me. And for the first time in my career, at 40, was fired. Wow. Never been fired before in my life. Had only
let
excelled.
alone from a church, right?
And from a church, right? So we had moved to St. Louis. Obviously, we didn't have a lot of money left over because we spent it all keeping the business open, spent it all moving. So here we are in a city we know no one. Haven't even made our first house payment. And I don't have a job. I go file unemployment, and Missouri says, well, you haven't lived here a year, so you don't qualify. So I go file employment, which I'd never done before in my life. In Oklahoma, I go, you don't live in Oklahoma, you don't qualify. We had nothing. For the first time in my life, we had nothing. We didn't know how we're going to buy groceries. And I'd never been in that position. With 2 kids that I'd moved thousands of miles away from everybody they know and their family. And I'm like, God, what have you done to me? Why? What did I do to deserve this? Right? I mean, I found a small group of men that were meeting that was CBRE in St. Louis, Missouri. To this day, I owe them so much. And I just was vulnerable, told them my story. And I called up my mortgage company to tell them I can't make my first mortgage payment. And they said, somebody's made it for you.
Wow.
Yeah, that's where we were. You talk about humbling.
Yeah.
From a real estate conglomerate, having 5 or 6 subdivisions in the Oklahoma City area, making good money, not mega rich or anything like that, but not worrying about money, to, honey, how are we going to buy groceries? In the span of a couple of years. And in my mind, I felt it was because we went in ministry. So
did you feel like you misheard God, or maybe that God, all those signs of the people buying your house so fast actually wasn't God? Is there a lot of doubt in that?
A lot of doubt. And that doubt turned to anger. And that's what got me. So, here I was, 6'1", 280 pound, competitive athlete, former operator that was living in anger. I just wanted somebody to pull in front of me. I mean, I was looking for outlets to let this anger go. And that's not my personality. I'm not a mean person, but I became one. That anger just ate at me and ate at me. I ended up, a lady that was in the church that we were at called me up and she goes, hey, I haven't seen you at church. What's up? And so I told her, and she goes, well, give me your resume. I have a business to business. And I know a lot of CEOs. And when I sent it to her, she goes, you have a master's degree? And I said, yeah. She says, I want to hire you. So she hired me.
Oh, wow.
Sat in a cubicle, humbling, right? But it was a learning experience, and it was really it was an amazing way of God providing, but I didn't see it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I said, wow, here I am, former business owner, and I'm sitting in a cubicle. Really, God, what did I do? Right. And it was the wrong way to look at it, looking back. So I have this anger. And as I got angry, my wife, understandably now, pulls away, because who wants to be around an angry man all the time, right? So she's protecting herself. Well, as she pulled away, so did I. And we get in this, this perpetual cycle of isolation. Mm-hmm. And in that point, I thought, how the enemy plants things in your head, right? Well, God doesn't love me, or he wouldn't have done this to me. My wife doesn't love me anymore because she won't even hardly talk to me. I must be unlovable.
That's a big agreement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the first time somebody showed me what I thought was love, it was like a June bug to lightning. Wow. And I had an affair. And then there's this massive amount of guilt, because I'm an extremely disciplined person. Like I said, athlete, other things, very, very disciplined. How could have I let myself get in this situation? It's compounded because my wife and I were unable to have children. So both of our children that we love to death, well, one's 23 in the Air Force in Japan, and the other one's 21 and starting her own career, been blessed beyond. But we weren't able to have our biological children. And this lady I had an affair with became pregnant. Well, there's no way, it's not me. I'm incapable of having children. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in Houston, Texas, when we lived there, trying to have children, and, insurance and other things, not just our money, but in Houston being the mecca of fertility. And the doctor looked at us and said, you will never have children. So now this lady that I had a very short tenure with is pregnant. I go, it's not mine. And we had a blood test, and yeah, it is.
Wow.
How does this happen? God, what else? What else? And it coming up to New Year's and Christmas of that year. And I said, I will not live this life another year. I'm going to tell my wife. She knew, but I think deep down, but I'm going to tell her, and we'll probably get divorced, and I'll be that guy, right? Living in those apartments with all the other divorced dads, right? And here we go. But I will not live this way. So I waited till Christmas, so I didn't run Christmas. But before New Year's, I started to tell her a couple of times, and I chickened out. And finally sat down at the coffee table and told her, and then absolutely told her the absolute wrong way. And I took a picture that was on my phone, a little boy that was now 4 months old. And I slid it across the table, and I said, and he's mine. So here's a woman that's been married at this point, almost 20 years, has been just the most amazing woman, gift of God that I could ask for. Beautiful. We were competitive athletes together. We were both bodybuilders, and we competed in the same shows, and it just had an amazing life, storybook. She stood by me, even when we lost our companies or whatever, she would say, if we have to eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, as long as we're together, we're fine. And I have done this. And so the guilt and the shame and the ramifications, and so we sought wise counsel, and we sought a marriage counselor, then also a counselor. Because I knew there was something in me that caused me to do this. I wanted to root that out and kill it, and whatever it was. So we went to Insight Ministries with Bob and LaRue McDaniels, and who they no longer do it, but again, but God.
Yeah.
And everybody we know that was in our situation had gotten divorced, right? And lost everything. And so I remember Bob asking my wife, said, do you want us to be married? And she goes, I do. And I'm like, you do? To me? Why would you want to be married to me? Look what I've done.
You're unlovable.
I'm unlovable. Yeah. So that made me realize maybe I wasn't unlovable unlovable, and maybe this is all a lie.
Mm.
And started to really dig into the lies of the enemy and what that causes. The isolation that I allowed myself to get into because I was unlovable. So if I was unlovable, nobody wants to be my friend. You know, it goes down I say a flushing
Yeah.
that doesn't end if you don't get out of it, right? You know, the old adage, if you're at the bottom of the well, stop digging, right?
Mm.
And so we started to turn our marriage around and learned that it was, you know, all about communication, all about, you know, nothing to prove, nothing to hide, and nothing to fear. So on those three things, which are three tenets of Alpha Warrior, imagine that, was I don't have anything to prove. So it doesn't matter what I drive. It doesn't matter what my body looks like. I don't have anything to prove.
You're not getting validation.
Not getting validation from anybody, but Jesus and my marriage, not validation, but the health of that as the leader of my family, spiritual leader. Nothing to hide. So my wife I don't worry with my phone when she picks up my phone to look calendar. I have absolutely nothing to hide. There's no picture, no website, nothing. And that helps me hold myself accountable that I don't ever want to go back to that and I know there are guys going to listen to this, like, I can't believe your wife has all your passwords, access to your telephone. I said, in my world, I can't believe she doesn't.
Yeah.
I will not live that life.
Was pornography an issue?
Yeah.
In those seasons?
It had been. Yeah.
Because
I'm unlovable, right?
Yeah.
I'm unlovable. So who wants me? Right?
Yeah. During that time of being unlovable, isolation, what place did God have in your life? I know there was some frustration with but were you guys still involved in church? Did you still have disciplines you were following?
You know, it's amazing the dichotomies we can live in. But yeah, we were still going to church and I had I didn't want to do mega church ever again because I'd seen the sausage being made and I thought they were all like that.
Yeah.
They're not. Okay. So we were looking at small churches and I knew that I needed God. I just wasn't sure if I was worthy of him anymore. All right. And because I was still unlovable. Right?
Yeah.
And how could a righteous, perfect, omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent God love me?
Yeah.
And the crap that I've created. Right. And the amazing thing he did, and he never stopped. It was a lie from the enemy that convinced me that I can tell you now, I've driven twice to St. Louis since then for business and other things. And I've touched the telephone pole I almost ran my truck into 3 times. Think, hey, I still have my $1 million life insurance policy from my business. My wife and my kids would be much better off without me. The lie from me. That's where he'll take you if you let him.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are many people listening to this podcast.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
There now or have been there.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, that's a lie from the pit of hell.
Yeah. Yeah. You are so much more valuable to your family than any life insurance policy could ever provide for. So thanks for going there. Thanks for sharing that. And so how long would you say, so the affair happens whenever you admit it to your wife and you guys are going through that, how much intensive were you going through? Did it last years? Was it a few months of intensives as far as like seeking counseling and all that?
So we did counseling, the 2 counselors, the marriage counselor and the I guess you call it psychology counseling, but it's Christian. And we still send everyone to him today from Alpha Warrior because I trust him, obviously. That was a good 6 months of 2 to 3 times a week. Because I told my wife, I said, I will do whatever it takes to make this work. If you're willing to love me, an unlovable person, if you're willing to stay, which I still at that point couldn't believe she did.
Yeah.
If you're willing to walk through this with me, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And when we're talking to guys that are at that level, I said, you're going to have to get in your marriage to a point of whatever it takes. For her to feel safe and secure, which is her number one need as a woman. And then talking to the woman, you have to do whatever it takes to make him feel honored because that's our number one. The Bible tells us that. Right?
In the whatever that it takes thing, it's kind of funny though. Like men can say that, right?
Yeah.
But then there's those things that they don't want to give up.
Right.
How have you seen that in men's lives?
Oh yeah.
What are some of the whatever it takes that are actually? What are some of the things that? Oh no, not that though. That you've seen.
Nothing to hide. First thing we tell couples when they come to us is you need to have one bank account, because if you can hide what you spend, it's an open door, right? Oh no, we can't do that. No, she has her money and I have my money. And I said, what happened about the two become one?
Yeah.
Right. And, sometimes you need business accounts. That's not what we're talking. We're talking about your personal spending, right? Or does she have the code to your phone? Does she know the password to get into your internet account? Can she see your history, right? Well, that's none of her business. Sure it is. She's your wife.
Yeah.
You two are one.
Yeah.
You don't have the right not to do that, actually,
Yeah.
in my opinion, in reading the word, right? So, and plus, there's so much freedom in that. When I tell them, you don't understand, that's not a jail.
Mm-mm.
That's freedom.
Yeah.
I don't worry about a telephone call at 2:00 in the morning. If I get a telephone call at 2:00 in the morning, it's a guy in trouble.
Yeah.
It's a guy at the edge with a gun to his head. That's a guy in a ditch. It's, hey, ministry's happening. I'm not worrying, oh my gosh, who is that?
Yeah.
Right. Or a text come through. And I've been sitting there on my phone before, and I'm sure all the guys on here have, and my wife is standing behind me, and I'll get one of those texts about, hey, give me a call. And I'm like, and I'll show it to her.
Yeah.
And I'll open it up and I'll go, this is one of those spoof texts to get you to go to some website.
Yep.
And she's like, how do they get your number? I go, I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't have anything to hide.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is. Watch me delete it.
Mm-hmm.
Clear my history. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Because I owe that to her, especially what I put her through. And then also, she still has times where triggers will happen. There'll be, a friend will have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
I had that experience. She hasn't. It's not fair.
Yeah.
Right. And I put her through that. So there are things that whatever it takes, right? When she goes, hey, I'm not feeling comfortable with this. Okay, then we don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk a little bit more about that. Like, I think I've heard a lot about when this happens and the victim in these situations has triggers now.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get triggered, the offender can get offended by that, right? How did you balance that? Was that easy for you to just say, you know what, you're right? Like,
no.
Yeah.
There's time I'm just like, internally I'm going, that's just silly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how could that affect you? And having a group of guys behind me, one of the older mentors go, why does that matter? It hurts her.
Mm.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how bad you want to do it. It doesn't matter if it seems silly to you. If it causes her pain, why would you, as her protector, not honor that? And I'm like, you're right.
Because we want respect and we want trust, right? And so whenever those triggers happen, it's like, okay, you don't either respect or trust us. Trust me. And so, but realizing that there's if you could have the bigger picture and the long-term view of like, you handle her heart well during those triggers, guess what? Trust and respect begin to build, right?
And healing happens, right?
Yeah.
There's things that were triggers the first 5 years, because the little boy now is 9, or will be this month, that aren't triggers anymore.
Beautiful.
Right. But then there's other things that pop up and she'll go, she goes, I just had something, this triggered me for some weird reason. Okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Instead of a normal response for me as a guy would be, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's shove it under.
Yeah,
It's okay. You go feel your thing. I'm going to go do something. Right.
Yeah.
It's no, I'm going to get in front of you, look you in the eyes and tell you, let's talk about this and let's work through it. And did I do something? Did I say something? Did I not let you know where I was going? Whatever. And she goes, no. It had nothing to do with you. This is something I saw on TV. It's something I heard on the radio. It might've been something in a Christian song.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
And that's the warrior, right?
Yeah.
Like man, do men get a misunderstanding of what it actually means to be a warrior for God? Stepping into that conversation and having face-to-face conversation about how you triggered her in a negative way, and stepping in and leaning into that situation, man, that's the warrior.
And we did a study about the spirit of offense and how powerful that is, and how we can get offended by stuff we don't understand why. And just have to understand, okay, that's not from God, because he doesn't have the spirit of offense other than sin, obviously, for himself, not for us, because there is no condemnation.
Yeah.
Right? And understand, okay, let's talk about it, because I don't understand how that offended you. And then she has to understand that's okay, because I don't understand, because I think differently she does. She's a woman, I'm a man, I have different life experiences, even though we've been married 33 years. And you get back to communication.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, we do marriage conferences at times. And the most surprising thing to me about the last one we did was we had a time where each man and wife there would, during a song, so for about 4 minutes, had to stare in each other's eyes.
That's creepy.
And we had people almost leave. I said, this is your wife and you can't look her in the eyes because of condemnation and offense and fear, and all these things came out when I'm looking in her eyes, and you have to, soul to soul.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, now we have something to work on.
Well, what can you counsel for me? Because every time I sit and stare at my wife, she's like, what are you looking at? Right. I'm like, babe, you're so beautiful. I'm just absorbing it. And then she's just like,
what do you want?
She's like, go do something else.
Right. No, I'm with you. No, I understand.
Yeah. Yeah. She's type A, very type A.
Yeah.
So she's like, yeah, she's awesome.
I understand.
I love her. Yeah. So you're in this healing journey. You're seeing the counselors 2 to 3 times a week. When did you start to feel breakthrough?
It was gradual. There was a big moment. So we're with our not the marriage counselor, other counselor, and we were getting to the point where we're thinking, do we need to keep going to him? But there's just still something we couldn't put our finger on. And I'll never forget, I'm sitting there and I know I deserve whatever I get, right? Whatever's coming at me. And he wasn't that way. It was just, that was my mindset.
Yeah.
And he looked at my wife, Rhonda, and he said, so when does the punishment end? My eyes went up and I went, did he just say what I think he said to her? Like, she is not wrong in this. She literally did nothing to cause this to happen.
Yeah.
And I just kind of looked at me, and I kind of got angry at him. Like, this isn't her fault. And he's like, right. So I'm sitting and he goes, how much more punishment does he need to take for him to have your heart again? And she just, tears came in her eyes as she goes, you're right. It's over. He goes, now you can heal. And that was when we really took off.
Wow.
And that communication. And she goes, yeah, I don't have to punish him anymore. She wasn't doing it on purpose, but it's just, I'm not sure if I want to be intimate yet. I don't know if I want to hold your hand. And, is that hug really a hug? All of those things that righteously are questions in this situation. They just melted away.
It's like she stepped in. It's like an opportunity to consciously step into grace.
Exactly. And that would be the thing. If I ever renamed my wife, it would be Grace.
Oh, cool.
The grace she has shown me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have the capacity to even show that kind of grace as she did.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. And so following that season, were there years between that and Alpha Warrior, or?
There was, so Alpha Warrior's been around right at 5 years in January. So yeah, there was 4 years, almost 4 years working through things. I'd started meeting with men and kind of, what does this look like? So the real impetus of Alpha Warrior, and I think this is important, is when I wanted to tell my wife. I went to 6 of my friends here And I said, hey, I want to be vulnerable with you. I want to tell you what's going on. Because everybody knew something was going on. I wasn't me. And I told them, and every single one of them were like, okay, I'll pray for you. Let me know how it works out. And I'm like, no, wait, I need somebody to walk through this with me. And at the time, it really ticked me off because I felt like, here we go, abandonment again, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to isolate, and I have nobody that's going to walk through this with me. And now I realize that they had no training. They had no resource. They didn't know what to do. That's what Alpha Warrior does.
Okay.
Equip and train men and women and families to become all that God has called them to be.
Yeah.
Part of that equipping is when somebody reaches out to you, maybe you don't know what to say. And all you say is, you know what? I don't know what to say right now, but you're not going to walk through this alone. That's all I wanted to hear. So I thought another man's not going to go through this if I can do it. The last thing I wanted to do after my experience was start a ministry. And that's why it took 4 years. I finally become obedient. And I said, okay, God, if this is what you want, I don't want to do this. I didn't. And there are days I still don't, right? In ministry. But it's what he called me to do. And so I finally was obedient. And the one thing that did it, I tell people this, and I think it's kind of surprising. My wife and I were sitting and watching TV, which we don't do a lot. And a commercial came on, and it was a razor commercial. And the entire 1 minute commercial was on the toxicity of masculinity. I thought, this is a razor commercial. Don't most men use more razors than anybody? And you just offended, or, and the whole thing was basically that being a masculine man is toxic. And I went, no, that's the opposite. You don't have to be a weak, matter of fact, I mean, the most, I know this is said a lot, but if you really think about it, the most masculine man and the one who went through the most pain that I could imagine and did it willingly is Jesus. How much more masculinity do you want to get? And that about that time, I looked over at my wife and I go, can you believe this? And she goes, it's time to start this thing. She's the one. She goes, it's time. We need to do this. Because that's what the world is telling men. And that's an absolute lie.
So let's talk about that. What's going on with men? Where are we at in society today? What's your heart long for the hearts of men?
To know and be known by God. And that sounds like a catchphrase, but to be known and to be vulnerable with God and really understand that he loves you beyond our wildest imaginations. And we really have to be trained to even understand that because our love is always conditional, right? You may love your children and that'll never change. Just because they made a bad grade doesn't mean you don't love them anymore, right? But there's still parameters on human love, but there's not on God's. And that it's okay to be you, that he created you in his image. And some of the things in us, he wants to root out. If you had a seed of anger, that's not of God, and he doesn't want you to build on that, right? But our basic foundation soul, our identity, who we are, and the strengths that he's given us are for a reason. What is that reason? What does he put you here for? And that's really what my heart is, and our heart is to find God. I know True North as well, right? Why are you here? Because you are not an accident. Right? Even if you were scheduled for an abortion, or even if, our son right now, right, was definitely an accident. But he was an accident of God.
So what, if someone's listening, what's a game plan going forward to know and be known by God? What's your Tracy's game plan for a man to start?
It's interesting because it's changed over the last month. I was blessed enough to be gifted going into a series of teachings every Wednesday morning at 7 on identity and on indwelling. Okay. the first one rocked my world. And really what I would tell men is to have a deep relationship with Jesus. It's what he wants. And it's what we desperately seek, even if you don't know it.
Yeah.
That hole.
Yeah.
I remember being raised in an independent Baptist, they said, there's a hole in your house, in your heart, only God can fill.
Yeah.
And we say that almost flippantly, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
And that he accepts us where we are, but he loves us too much to leave us there.
Mm-hmm.
And that, me being unlovable at the time, that was transformational to me. Is, you mean he really will just accept me with all the stuff I've done? Absolutely. But he'll help me transform into nothing to prove, nothing to hide, nothing to fear.
Yeah.
And that's a process, right? That you're not going to wake up tomorrow, probably. God can, but I haven't seen it yet. And go, boom, all that's taken care of. You have to, whatever it takes.
Mm.
And that's one of the things we talk about, whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I would say that being real and understanding our weaknesses and our vulnerabilities and things we need to work on, being real with a few guys and saying, hey, what do you see in me that I need to work on? Right? Not in a condemning way, but because you love me as a brother in Christ, you go, you really need to work on the way you talk to your wife. Mm-hmm. Ooh, mm-hmm. You got to be a brother to talk to another brother like that, right? Yeah. But you built this trust because you've been in life together. You know that if I died tomorrow, that I have 3 or 4 guys that'll take care of my family. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't have to worry about my wife, going without having to change a tire or getting the oil changed or those things, right? I don't worry about that anymore because I have a community, and leading the ministry. I probably have more than a normal person, but I hope, and I think this is true, that every guy in our ministry would say, yeah, I got 6 guys to carry my casket, and I know I got 3 that's there no matter what.
Yeah.
Or whatever that might be.
Yeah. What's some of the elements to a healthy men's group to help a healthy community of men? Like, what are some of the intentional things you see those guys doing that produce true brotherhood and longevity?
Time together.
Yeah.
Going on the retreats and the things that you guys, that True North does, are critical, right? Going away, spending time together, having those events. Why do you think military guys are so tight and strong forever?
Yeah, in the trenches.
Because they've been in the trenches. That's right. So when you've been in the trenches for another guy's family, and you go, hey, dude, I know you lost your job. We got your groceries this month. Mm-hmm. That's humbling, but that's also, if you're reading Acts, what'd they do? They shared each other's burdens. Mm-hmm. They fed each other. They took care of things that they needed. Yeah. Hey, I'm going to make 4 or 5 phone calls and see if I can help find you something, right? Yeah. Or maybe it's not even that tragic. It's just maybe, hey, I see you pulling away from the group. What's up? Why are you isolating? Right? And I can't do that with 50, 60, 100 guys. That has to be 1-on-1, 2-on-1. That has to be guys looking out for each other. Mm-hmm. And I know you teach that all the time.
Yeah. So. It's interesting because there's an element to it, like, it doesn't just start immediately in the trenches a lot of times either. Like, there's a lot of kind of the mundane aspects of building brotherhood. There can be seasons, long seasons of like, you're not really going through much, or maybe you just haven't opened up yet or figured out really what's going on with you. And so things stay surface level for a while, but the importance of having that foundation so that whenever stuff hits the fan, you know how to take care of each other. What kind of encouragement would you give to people that are, I think there's a lot of men that step into men's groups and they're like, I don't know if this is adding much value. Yeah. Right. But at the end of the day, what we know, like in leadership and seeing this stuff, is like, no, that's an important part.
It is. And, I know you and I've had this conversation that we're not in competition with a local church. We want to help make their men's groups stronger, right? We meet on Saturdays for a reason. We don't meet on Sundays. So you go to church and go to your men's group and go to your Wednesday men's group typically, or whatever. because there's never too much brotherhood, right? There's never too much of that. And we have a lot of people that come out for that don't go to any church. By their choice, and that's okay, for them if that's where God has them or if that's where they feel like they need to be. A lot of church hurt, right? As I experienced.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have. But you're right. Some of that is, even in the military, you don't start in the trenches, you start at boot camp, right? And then you just go to your job training and you create these relationships. And we in society, we're a microwave society. I want it now, and I want it instant, and I want instant brotherhood, and I want you to be my best friend, and I know I just met you. That's not the way it works. Yeah. And you might end up going to, you might your Monday meetings here, right? You might come here for 3 or 4 months, and then finally you just meet the guy that you're supposed to meet.
Yeah.
But if you're not here, you can't meet him, right? If you don't go to the bonfires, if you don't do those things, you don't go out, and we go shooting a lot because God's blessed us with some pretty special guys that have, that's what they did for a living for a long time. And so we have gun training and different things. Go out, and even if, and a lot of times, hey, bring that guy that maybe he's not churched. Maybe he's not a Christian. Maybe you don't know. Maybe he's just a neighbor and you haven't had the guts to tell him, but he likes guns, right? Or he likes fishing or whatever. Bring him.
Yeah.
And you just never know.
Yeah. That's so good.
Because everybody, I believe, whether they admit it or not, is looking for brotherhood. How do you think gangs get young teenagers to join them? Because they give them a place to belong till they take it away from them.
Yeah.
But that's how they get them to come.
Yep. Yeah. So if you're a man listening to this and they want to be involved in this type of brotherhood, and maybe they want to do it through Alpha Warriors, what does that look? What do the practical steps look like for them to get plugged in with you guys? And what could they expect?
They could go to alphawarriorministries.com and there's a way to get in contact with me or some other people. We have a text string that goes out. I write a Devo just about every morning, and it goes out, and at the end it'll have, it's something that I promised a friend of mine that died. And God is, it's been amazing. He has shown me more about his word and his mysteries doing that, because it's forced me to read and research. It's been one of the biggest blessings of my life. But just come to one of our meetings, come to the men's meeting, come to our combined meeting. The nice thing about the combined meeting, we have a lot of singles there, a lot of single guys, a lot of single girls, a lot of widowers, and of course couples, but
yeah. So skip Christian Mingle and come straight to the dating site of Alpha Warrior.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully not. But yeah. We've had some marriages, we have. So it
luckily we haven't had any marriages through True North.
No, that's true. Yeah. Since you all guys, right? Yeah, in today's world. But, and, I have to say this, one of the things that's really cool is we have these sometimes get together for the shooting or whatever. And I actually had a guy show up in a True North shirt, and he came up and he goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I wore my True North shirt." I go, "Why?" He goes, "Well, don't they do what you do?" And I go, "And so?" I go, "Do you think that there's a limit to the ministry we need to do together?"
Yeah.
There's billions of guys out there that need what we're doing together. Yeah. And that's what I really enjoy about you, even having me on the podcast and doing this, is we got a lot of work, right? Yeah. And we do things a little differently. We do more small groups. You guys have these great events. And we tell all of our guys, go to a True North event, please. It will change your life. Yeah. It will connect you with God. And then when you come back to a small group, if you go a small group full of True North guys, great.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Right. Do it. And if it's in Alpha Warrior, great.
Yeah.
Because you said something at our first coffee that has still resonated with me. We shouldn't really have to exist.
Yeah.
Either one of our ministries. If the local church had vibrant men's ministries, we wouldn't need to exist.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, and sometimes it's not even the church's fault, men don't engage.
Yeah.
Or there's a whole thing there. I know John Eldridge taught on this, how, throughout World War II, that the women ran the church and the men showed up after World War II. It wasn't a place for them anymore. And I know some men still feel that way.
Yeah.
So they want a place. We provide a place you can scratch and itch and spit and have fun.
Yeah.
And just be a dude.
Yeah.
Without worrying about what you say or how you say it, and just be you.
Yeah.
God will make the change. That's not our job.
So. Yeah. Well, what I love about Alpha Warrior. I haven't experienced it for myself yet, but like your description of the accountability that you guys bring into each other's lives, of just, if you step into Alpha Warrior, you will be pursued. Like you will be a part of that brotherhood, right? Like that. Like, and I love that. That's one of the difficulties, honestly, of True North, is like we have the events, and we would love to just spend time with every single man that comes through. But I mean, there's only so many hours in the day, right?
Right.
And we have incredible volunteers, and we're doing a really good job of helping people get into their next steps of groups like Alpha Warrior. But Alpha Warrior is a place you can land today and be known by others, begin to be known by God, start knowing God more. And I love that about what you guys are doing.
And it's like when I don't want to give away part of your what you guys do, but at the bonfire, right? And when you're reading what God has put on your heart, there was a couple of guys there that God just really said, connect with those guys. I've stayed in touch with them, and one of them has come down to where one of them has never come. That's okay, but still connected. He's reached out to me before. Hey man, I'm having a real hard time, and those are the times that when you show up, that you get to have. Yeah. But when you're not there, and you decide to stay home and watch TV or whatever, it's showing up is a big part of the battle.
Yep. That's so good.
Because the enemy will tell you it's too tired. It's a weekend. You really have time. I guarantee you something will go wrong at work on that Friday or Thursday. It's just going to happen. And you tell people that, and just be ready for it. Be ready for the battle and say, nothing is going to stop me from going. I know two of our guys, we had a car full of guys, and they had 2 flat tires on the way to True North. Yeah. And I don't care if we're late. They said, we know exactly what's happening. They changed their tires, and they ended up getting there. Wow. It just wasn't going to let anything stop them.
Yeah. I don't want to scare anybody, but this stuff happens, man.
It does,
I mean, we have a spiritual enemy, right? Like he doesn't want anything good for our lives. And the fruit of True North is a whole lot of good. And so he's going to try and steal that from us and destroy that. And so, there's a lot of stories just like that, right? So, we can't get out of here with discussing one thing. You used to like rip phone books in half, right?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about that.
So it was interesting. I was a competitive bodybuilder, right? And that's how I met my wife. I actually met my wife at a Gold's Gym. And we were both competing, and I'd really started growing closer to God. And I said, bodybuilding is a very selfish sport. It's all about how much you eat. And, obviously you're on stage, and I wasn't real comfortable with that anymore. And I remember praying one day, I said, God, if you don't want me to step into a gym again, I won't. I realized that my wife and I 6 days a week after work, that's where we met. That's where our friends were. That's where our kids had their friends in the daycare. It was a big part of our life. Wow. But I said, I mean it. And then that weekend, I went to Creative Church Conference. We actually were founding members of a church here in Oklahoma City. And back when there was only 6 of them, and they invited us to create a church conference to see, like, how can we grow this thing? What's the best way to move forward? And when I walked by the booth, they had these church ministries, like we both are now. Yeah. And one of them had all these big old guys, right? And had these pictures, and I'm walking by, and one of the guys grabbed my arm. He goes, "Hey man, you're a big old dude. Why are you here?" And I'm like, "I'm here, with a church. We're helping found and get started. We're meeting in a theater now, and we want to grow it." And he goes, "Have you ever thought about doing this?" I go, "Man, I can't do what you guys do." He goes, "You're bigger than any of us here. What are you talking about?" And I go, "Yeah, but it's different." So long story short, they invited us to a crusade, at this little church in Dallas, which turned out to be about a 20,000 person church. And they had, fire and lights and all this. And I remember we're sitting on the second row, my wife and I, and we're watching all this. And I go, this is a lot of show. This was reminding me of bodybuilding. And I thought, I wonder what these guys are really like. And we're sitting there and they're ripping telephone books and great speakers, And then they had an altar call. And the altar fills with hundreds of people. And I go, okay, I want to be a part of that.
Oh, yeah.
And so we went backstage and met the guys from Team Impact. That's what it was. The most humble, unbelievably genuine men I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
Most of them were former professional athletes. And they wanted to take their passion and do it with God. And I said, God, if you want me to do this, if you allow me, I would love to take my passion. So for about 5 years, when I had my real estate companies and, I ran them, so I was able to travel a little bit, they would call me up and go, hey, do you want to do a crusade in Norfolk, Virginia? And they'd fly me out and I'd rip telephone books and break bricks for Jesus. And what's amazing, as silly as it sounds, I saw over 2,400 people give their life to Christ in 4 years.
Wow. That's insane.
Because their defenses are down. Right? They're coming to watch a bunch of overweight guys break stuff.
Yeah.
And then you hit them between the eyes with the gospel.
Yeah.
And they're like, and then some of them heard it for the first time. Mm-hmm. Many of them had vowed never to step in church again because of church hurt or condemnation. And they realized we're just normal dudes, just trying to figure this out like you are.
Mm-hmm. If they were around today, would they just be tearing iPhones in half?
Yeah, true. Exactly. They're still doing it.
Are they?
Yeah, they're still doing it. I mean, they're the younger generation now, right? That stuff hurts, by the way. None of that is fake.
Did you have to train to get to that point, or were you able to just step in and start ripping? Or did you guys cheat? Were there little tears already in the phone?
That's one thing I can honestly say. There was absolutely no cheating. Okay. Nothing was pre-toured, pre-broke, nothing. We failed a lot. You just didn't see that on TV, right? That's called editing.
I've seen some YouTubes of people failing at stuff like that before.
No, it's really interesting because they send me this jumpsuit, right? These silly suits we had on. And they said, hey, we need you in, I think it was Roanoke, Virginia. And, fly out, get there Sunday, start setting up Monday. Okay. I had no idea what setup meant.
Yeah.
So I remember I get there and I go, like, is there a training camp? Do I go to like a boot camp or go? They go, no, we start tonight. Or actually, we got there on Tuesday night. We start on Wednesday night, right? They said, hop in the van, let's go. So we hop in the van, we show up at the church. The church feeds us lasagna. Of course, all of them fed us lasagna. Yeah. And we start setting up bricks. So I have no idea what's happening. And I'm like, okay, when do I get to train? So we go back, change. We show back up. There's 1,000 people in the audience. And I'm still like, okay, do you want me to hand you bricks or what are we going to do here? And he goes, no, see that little foundation there with 27 bricks? He goes, you're going to break that tonight. And I go, no, I'm not. He goes, yeah, really. He said, just hit it as hard as you can with the meat of your forearm and reach up and hit it really hard. And don't hit it with your wrist or you'll break your wrist. And don't hit it with your elbow or you'll shatter your elbow. And I'm like, you're crazy. You're insane. I'm not doing this. He goes, yeah. And so I'm like kind of trying to hide backstage and said, and next up is Tracy Markham. And he's going to break all these bricks with his forearm. And I'm like, and that's how I started. Yeah.
Did it work?
I actually broke them all. I think out of fear as much as anything.
Yeah.
I probably hit it as hard as I ever hit anything in my life.
That's probably their strategy. They're like, this guy didn't want to get embarrassed. That's the best.
And believe it or not, the hardest thing was blowing up that hot water bottle.
Hot water bottle. Tell me about
they
that.
had a hot water bottle that you blew up and it got, huge. It would get this big around. And it was paramount to putting a 3-inch rubber band in your mouth and somebody pulling it and letting it go. We would get cuts and it would slap the snot out of you.
Oh my gosh.
And I still to this day don't know why they did that other than it looked cool. But that was the hardest thing that we did. And then we did one in every school. So we do 4 or 5 schools a day and then at night. So by the time you got there, you've got cuts all over you and it was crazy. So it was all real. I can honestly say there wasn't any bats that were pre-broken. Steel bars were steel bars. As a matter of fact, the church buys the materials. When we showed up, they just sent them a list. So it's just there.
Golly.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
But what a ministry. The guy's just amazing.
Yeah.
And it was a great honor.
Yeah. Maybe you need to do a reunion tour.
Yeah. Called the fat guys too, right?
We'll have you at the next big True North event. That'll be our
exactly.
entertainment. That'll be fun. Man, Tracy, thank you for coming on and sharing the story of Alpha Warriors. We'll actually include the link to the website in the show notes, and just encourage any man to check it out. You have a really incredible story, and thank you for just being vulnerable and sharing that with us. And we know that God has used it to help a lot of people, but also just for him to intervene in your life and walk with you is a beautiful thing to see. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thank you. I'm still amazed that God would use even me.
Mm-hmm.
Really am. Believe me, if he can use me, he can use every man listening to this. Yeah. And if you think that you're unlovable, unredeemable, I have proof that you're not. And if you think that your marriage can't be recovered, we're proof that you're not. Mm-hmm. And but it's going to take some work, and you can do this.